Hey, what's up, rock stars? It's Rox coming to you today with the review for Love and Marriage Huntsville, Season 6, Episode 12. So, I know I ask you guys this every week. Is this where we're taking the break? Now that Detroit is gone, is this the last episode for a while? Y'all have to let me know, child. I can't keep up with these schedules. But anyway, the review, let's get to it, shall we? All right, you guys, so the show started where it ended last week. You know, Stormy trying to talk to her aunt and her mother to get them to see eye to eye. Well, you guys already know Stormy's auntie was like, I can't control what come out the lady's mouth the same way that you can't control it, but I can control what she says to me, you know, and if that means that I can't be you and Courtney and the baby's life, then so be it. You know, Stormy, of course, doesn't want that. The mom walks up and the auntie walks away, okay? And Stormy was just like, go over there, talk to her, give her a hug. And the mama was like, how am I supposed to hug somebody that's walking away? Child, that mama is something else. So anyway, later on we see Stormy and Courtney, they're in the car driving and they're just talking about, you know, the recent stresses of life. You know, they got to try to get their warehouse in order. Remember, they just recently moved. They've been having problems with shipping, with an inventory, getting their stuff out on time, people not getting their stuff, you know, so they've really got to nail this down. And, you know, they're like, we still not finished. We got to hire new people. You know, she got rid of Junior. But it sounds like maybe they need to get rid of some more people and maybe just hire a new team. Whatever it is, they're going to have to do what they need to do because this is her business. She can't let that suffer. Now, what about your mama and your auntie? And Stormy was just like, you know, she just wants them to get back to the way that they were when they were growing up. You know, when her and Junior was growing up, everything was good. That's falling apart. You know, and now every time they get them together, they start fighting. You know, Courtney was like, it's always like that. And she was just like, yeah, but it didn't used to be that way. Like Stormy was trying to get a family trip going, you know, everybody all go, you know, even on her. And they was like, hell no, you know, a nigga ain't really getting along with it. you pass up a free trip somewhere, you don't even want to go out the damn state with your sister. Yeah, there's some issues for real. So, you know, Courtney feels bad for Stormy. He was like, you know, Stormy wants a close family. Stormy is an only child. It was just her and her mother. And apparently her mother kind of like only wants to have the relationship with Stormy. She don't want nobody else in the family, the way that they were saying it anyway. She don't want nobody else in the family to be as close to Stormy as she is. So she kind of like, you know, suffocates her. Well, not suffocates her, but just tries to be like the main in her life. Courtney feels like they do love each other, but Stormy was like, well, why do they say that they hate each other? Okay, well, you know, it's a fine line between the two, right? So, you know, Courtney just doesn't like the fact that she always feels like she has to choose between her mom and her auntie. Why can't we just all be one big happy family? Well, yeah, they do need to change, but you know, it's hard. We ain't got up to our big grown age, 50s and 60s, and really talking about changing like that. But it looks like maybe the mom is going to have to maybe learn how to compromise a little bit more. What do you guys think? Y'all team auntie or team mommy or team none of them? I still don't know if this is a good idea that that Stormy's decided to bring her family on the show. It remains to be seen, but so far, we ain't really feeling that mama. Now, let's jump over to Martell. So, Martell says that, you know, the divorce, that's been hard on the children. Melody actually did put the kids in therapy, so he feels like as a father, maybe it is his job to get some therapy as well. And he said so far it's going very well. There's been a no judgment zone, and that's what he needs. You know, Martell has been judged for the whole time that he's been on this show for good reason. But that's what the consequences are when you do what you did. So now he's trying to, you know, he's trying to get to the bottom of his feelings, but he needs somebody that's going to be neutral in all of this. So he's found that in his therapist. So he sits down with the therapist and she was just like, so how are you feeling about like your holistic balance? And he was like, well, I'm off balance right now. Okay. And she was like, oh, well, I'm glad you admit that. And he was just like, yeah, you know, because, you know, I guess he knew he had to shoot today. He needed to get to the therapist and all, and he had the kids. And so he needs either the sitter to come or his mom to watch the kids. The sitter didn't come and mom didn't come, or they was late or something. So of course it threw off his schedule. So that pissed him off. Oh, well, Martell, you know what? Sometimes something called life happens, and we can't just all cater to what Martell wants. I don't know if that's what he's saying, but that's what it sounds like to me. Sometimes you got to stay your ass home and watch your own fucking kids. Or sometimes you got to take the kids with you. Okay, mamas do it every day. Now men get to see how it goes. So yeah, he's frustrated with his mom and his sister, and the therapist was like, yeah, that kind of sounds like that might be an unhealthy relationship. And he says, yeah, it is an unhealthy relationship. I said, are you saying that you're not getting along with your mom? You love your mom to death, okay? I'm not understanding. You just all this is unhealthy because your mama couldn't make it there to watch the kids. Oh gosh, I mean, self-centered much? Maybe it's more to it and we just ain't get. But I'm just listening to this whole conversation and I was just like, okay, so what's the problem again? Now all of a sudden it's unhealthy? Oh, okay. So the unhealthy relationships apparently throw Martell off. Okay. What exactly is your relationship with your dad? And he was just like, well, he's around. Okay. You don't see him as much as he used to, but yeah, his father is around. Therapist says, do you feel a void from your father not being around as much as he used to? And he was like, no, I'm not never going to put that on my father. Okay. Like, that's a cop out to me when people say, you know, their lives didn't turn out the way that they wanted to because of the father not being there. You know, he had his mom. And I guess, you know, Mama Holt did the best that she could. He got a younger brother. Had no idea. I'm sure you guys did, though, because you guys know everything Melody and Martell Holt. But yeah, I had no idea that he had a younger brother. Maybe they mentioned it and I just put it out my mind. Anyway, he ain't been on the show. But now Martell tells us that he recently got out of jail and he's trying to get his life on track. So maybe, you know, Martell needs to foster a healthy relationship with his younger brother. Maybe that's a good idea. You know, it's funny how him and his brother turned out. You know, Martell and him had the same mom. They lived in the same house. They grew up together, but the brother was out in them streets. And so he kind of took the bad route. Martell could have very easily ended up on that route, but he didn't. So the therapist tells him, you know, maybe you need to get with your brother, see if you can try to make some differences in his life. You know what, therapist? You might have something there. So later on, we see Martell has invited his younger brother over. What was his name? Start with an M too. Was it Marquise, Marquette? Oh, child, I don't know. Anyway, the brother is there. The brother was let out of jail a year ago. He's been on probation, but now he's off probation totally. He ended up getting an actual legitimate job. So it looks like, you know, the brother is trying to do this straight and narrow. So Martell, you know, reaching out to him, this is the perfect time, you know. The brother is like, maybe you can teach me. Teach me better. All right. And Martell was just like, yeah, absolutely. You know, that's what he's there for, to make sure that his brother don't make the same mistakes that he has. That ain't what he said. But, well, it is sort of kind of what he said in a different way. You know, basically what he was saying was, you know, like I said, they grew up together. It wasn't like they had different lives or whatever. They was both kind of in them streets because the dad was in and out, you know, doing whatever he was doing. The mama was doing the best that she can as she was working. So Martell and his brother, they was out there. Martell used to get in some trouble, but a recruiter ended up talking to him. And so then he ended up getting involved in sports, and then that focused him. Okay. And the brother chose the streets. So that's why their paths were a little different. But Martell does tell him that, you know, I know that you just recently got married, and, you know, finding a woman, he that findeth a wife findeth a good thing. You know, if you got the right woman for you, she's gonna keep you focused. Like, I know I messed up the shit that I had in the past, but I can say that when I had my wife and something to come home to, and who was taking care of the things that needed to be taken care of, it freed him up to be a whole lot more focused on what he needed to do. Okay, it also freed him up to go and have an affair probably, but he did take advantage of his wife in that way. But he was just like, yeah, you know, the wife definitely is a good thing. It definitely can keep you on path, you know, if you have the right person. So that's a good thing. And, with the brother having this real job now, this is good. So Martell tells him about the Black Expo. Okay, the Black Business Expo. And at the Expo, they're going to have a whole bunch of business people there talking about their, whatever it is that they do, giving tips. And this might be a good way for the brother to kind of, start hobnobbing, rubbing elbows, and networking, if you will, with people that can make a difference in his life. So, would you like to come? And the brother was like, yeah, that sounds like something I can do. And Martell was like, okay, good. You got to you can't show up looking like this, and put you some clothes on, a little suit and whatnots. But yeah, you gonna come on down? Brother say he gonna come on down to the Expo. Now, let's jump on over to the Scotts. So we see Kimmy and Maurice has set up a date night. They're going to like a sip and paint, basically. And they've invited the other Scotts to join them. Before the other Scotts get there, they're just talking about the different things that they're able to paint. They can paint canvas. It looks like there's some tumblers or cups or whatever. And the woman is just telling them, that they don't make sure that they don't put those tumblers or those cups in the dishwasher. That has to be hand washing, Maurice. He was just like, oh, that's your department, to Kimmy. You can't wash a damn dish, Maurice. So we already know it's about to be one of them conversations. She was like, really, that need to be Monster's department, really? Because, that's part of his chores that Monster so conveniently decides to forget to do. And, Maurice and Kimmy, I don't know why Maurice is purposely being so obtuse and like he just acting like he don't understand what Kimmy is saying. And I know this man is smart enough to understand. He don't want to do anything different. And I would be very frustrated if I was Kimmy because, Maurice, they just see parenting very differently. Maurice feels like it's Kimmy's responsibility to snap her in order. Like, you are the parent as well. This is not her son. We've talked about this so many times. Like, Kimmy, the whole thing is, even if Maurice feels that Kimmy needs to do more on her end to really push Monster to do what she tells him to do, even if he sees it differently, if she is actually telling you, some people don't communicate these things. If a person is actually communicating something to you and saying, I need you to do this for me, even if you don't see it the same way, if a person is saying, I need your help, then help them. That's all. Okay, you can be like, well, I feel like you can do it, but I will step in if that's what you want me to do. Yes, that's what I want you to do. And then it would be so much easier. But Maurice, I don't know, he has like some sort of antiquated thinking that the woman is supposed to be the one that enforces the rules in the house, which happens usually, but again, this is not Kimmy's child. And that she feels that she has to step lightly. And Maurice says that she does. So anyway, they having this conversation, and then the other Scotts get there. Hey, Letitia, what y'all talking about? Oh, girl, why you ask that? Well, they was talking about punishing Monster, or just the consequences of Monster not doing the chores that Kimmy has told him to do. And, Maurice was like, Kimmy doesn't feel like she's at liberty to punish Monster. And Kimmy was like, that's not really what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you could afford to be more involved with your child. For instance, she had told him to rake up some leaves. He didn't do that. She wanted Maurice to back her up on it. Maurice didn't say nothing about it, so she doesn't feel like she has that support. He says she shouldn't feel like she has to be backed up. Okay, even if she shouldn't feel like that, if that's how she feels, nigga, just do it. Just do it. Okay? I can't tell you how many times there's some shit that Mr. done wanted me to do that I ain't felt like doing, but you know what? Let me just help because you said you wanted me to. And so I'm going to help you. But really, I don't feel like it, but I'm going to still do it because it's going to keep the peace and it's going to help you get to whatever result you're trying to get to, right? It's all about compromise, y'all. That's all this whole conversation is about. So, he's like, this is our kid. You shouldn't feel like you have to tiptoe around Kyle. She was like, I tiptoe around both of you guys. And he was like, well, you shouldn't. And I was just like, that's always easier said than done. So, Kimmy, do you punish Monster? And she's like, well, I really don't even want to go there. Like, she's not the one that wants to do that kind of punishment for, I mean, that kind of, what's the word? She doesn't want to be that person in Monster's life that's like enforcing that kind of stuff. That's what he has a real dad for, and a real mom, even though the mama don't live in the house, you know. So Tisha was like, you should be able to punish Monster. You know, you should be able to have conversations with Kiowa and everything. The problem is not with Kimmy and Kiowa. From what we see anyway, I feel like Kimmy and Kiowa have come a long way, right? And so, you know, Maurice was like, I've been fostering that relationship for many years. And, you know, Kimmy was just like, what are you saying? You know, and he says, well, he feels like Kiowa has kind of moved forward, but Kimmy hasn't. And Kimmy was like, how can you say that? Like, we've been doing fine. Yes, there's been issues with Monster or whatever, but you talking about me and Kiowa haven't been able to get along and all that. Like, Kimmy, you could see that look on Kimmy's face. She was mad, you know, because she, and they was just like, oh my God, you know, Letitia and Marceau. Marceau was actually very quiet the whole time, surprisingly. I mean, he did say something, but, you know, just sarcastically, but he didn't have too much to say. But you could tell that Kimmy was irritated because she was just like, it almost feels like Maurice feels more comfortable with Kimmy and Kiowa being in conflict than with the two of them seeing eye to eye. He's going to keep on talking about the fact that those two haven't moved forward. But I think it's very clear that Kimmy and Kiowa, they cool with each other, you know? And I think it's easy for us to see what Kimmy is saying, you know? So I don't know. Child. So yeah, Kimmy was pissed, and Maurice says that, you know, he's going to have a meeting with all of them. You know, they bring up the last time that they were supposed to have this meeting, and Maurice had to leave because Kimmy and her husband was late, and so he ended up leaving Kimmy there, you know. So Kimmy, you know, Marceau brought that up, and he was just like, oh no, I was on time, they was late, and I had to go. Like, how's that, you know, how's that my fault? Well, it's not your fault that they was late, but you left your wife there to deal with the situation where you was involved. This was something serious enough that maybe you could have postponed that other meeting and dealt with what was going on in your family. Okay, family first, right? So yeah, Kimmy was aggravated. She was like, I don't like all these slick ass little remarks that you have about me and all that. So yeah, that sipping paint, you know, it at least the way it ended for us, it didn't go, it kind of went left. So later on, we see this meeting that Maurice has called with Kiowa and Monster. Before Kiowa gets there, they're sitting down just talking to Monster. We making sure that everybody is on the same page. So when she gets there, they sit down, they talking, and, you know, Maurice all proud of himself. Has Monster told you about boot camp? And she was like, no. And okay, so what is boot camp? Oh, well, we get up at 5 a.m. You know, we get an earlier start to our day. And she was just like, okay, so you're up at 5 a.m, and then what happens? Well, he's supposed to do the workout, he's supposed to do the chores and everything. But Kimmy was just like, you know, the one little problem though is he don't do the chores that he's supposed to do. Okay. And so Maurice, you know, again, it's all about this boot camp, you know, and developing him as a man or whatever. He was like, so do you have a problem with the boot camp? And Kai was like, well, I mean, I don't have a problem with the boot camp. That's what you want to do, but it don't sound like the boot camp working. Like, maybe there needs to be some tweaking. Kimmy was like, thank you. Okay. But Maurice don't see what the problem is with the boot camp. He look over at Monster and he's like, you know, basically fix your face. You know, Monster was like, what the fuck wrong with my face? Okay, he was like, you don't look like you are receiving. That's not your receiving face. And he was like, well, it ain't really a face for that. You know, like, would you want me to sit here smiling at you or something? And so, you know, Maurice, he's irritated with Monster. I mean, like, so Kimmy was just like, Monster, what are some of your ideas about how we can fix, you know, this chore situation? He's like, I don't know, because he ain't thought about it. Y'all the one with the problem. Okay, just let Monster know what the problem is and maybe he could try to fix it. But As far as he's concerned, he ain't thought nothing about none of this until y'all decided to all sit down together. So Kiowa asked Monster House's grades. He says they're getting better. Okay, well, how do we get them great? Well, I guess he could apply himself a little bit more. But I guess all this has still been an adjustment for Monster. And Monster really don't feel like working that hard for great grades. And Maurice was like, see, that's the problem right there. Oh, Maurice. It's so much more to this than that. So Maurice is getting frustrated with him and was just like, you don't you have something to do? You need to, I'm sure right now you got some homework or something that you need to do. I mean, first of all, you wanted me to come to this meeting. All right, now you sending me off all frustrated. Okay, fine. So Monster gets up and leaves the room. So Kiowa was just like, yeah, I just don't want him to feel like we ganging up on him. And Maurice was just like, this is Maurice. He can't be babying Monster. This is the reason why Monster is the way that he is because Kiowa has babied him. And she was just like, I don't feel like it was babying. I mean, I feel like I nurtured my child. I had to do a lot of things when Maurice wasn't as involved, and that might be some of the reason why Maurice feels like, I feel like he overcompensates. Now he's doing way too much. Kiowa feels like maybe Monster just misses her. Maybe she needs to be around more. As far as her baby and him, that's her son. So, she's listening to Maurice and she's kind of rolling her eyes and Kimmy picks up on it. Like Kiowa's just like, like Maurice is kind of on one and she's irritated and Kimmy can see it, but Maurice can't. So Kimmy jumps in and she says, there just needs to be more time that you spend with your child. And Maurice was like, I do spend time with him. Okay, well, when? When I pick him up, when I drop him off. And Kimmy was like, that cannot be your argument here. You're not telling us that that's the time that you bond with your child is the 15-minute ride to and from school. He don't need a drill sergeant. He don't need boot camp. He needs his father. He needs to have more fun time with his father, not just always, So what Kimmy is trying to say is just because it don't need to be like this structured, formatted reason for you to be with your child. You guys just hanging out together, okay? Like you just doing things around the house. Hey, Monster, come help me do this real fast. I'm trying to put a shelf up in the garage. Or, hey, Monster, come on, let's go out here, cut this grass. There are so many other ways that you can still bond with your child. You can still be teaching them about responsibilities and things that they need to be doing, but it can be done in a way where it just feels natural, organic, as a parent, as opposed to, I'm the drill sergeant, get up 5 o'clock, we're going to do push-ups, we're going to do this, we're going to do, So Kimmy is just trying to find that middle ground with Maurice, and he just ain't finding it. Okay, but Kyle was just like, maybe I need to be around more because my son might be missing me, and maybe he's expressing expressing that this way. And so, yeah, that would be, maybe that's going to be something that Kiowa needs to work. Now, Kiowa lives in, where does she live, you guys? You guys have to remind me. I thought she was moving to Alabama at one time, but does she live there or not? I kind of feel like she doesn't. But yeah, like I said, you guys remind me on that one. So anyway, after Kiowa leaves, she leaves and she takes Monster and they go have some alone time. And so Kimmy and Maurice are talking. They're talking about maybe Monster might need some therapy. Maybe he's harboring some feelings there. Now, Monster does have some body language. Even Kimmy did pick up on that. And she was like, yeah, maybe you guys should go. And Maurice was like, oh, so us go and you don't go. And Kimmy was just like, yeah, I just feel like the boy will open up and be more comfortable with it's just his parents and him. Again, why this don't make sense to this boy? I get it that Maurice wants Kimmy to feel included. She's the bonus parent, but so he just kind of looks at her as Monster's other mom, but still he's refusing to see like the fine print of this whole thing. He's like just refusing. Even he feels like Kiowa and Kimmy still needs to work out the past, and Kimmy was just like, the past is the past and the past is done. I'm not worrying about the past. I'm worrying about the future. And he was like, see, that's right there. Let me know you're not over it. And she was like, what do you mean? What is exactly do I need to be over? Okay. What exactly is still the problem that you think that I have? He didn't really answer that. And again, I feel like Maurice wants Kiowa and Kimmy to have a problem. Like, what we talking about the past for if we didn't already moved from that? There's nothing else still to think. I mean, I guess they still feeling like, Maurice still feels like Kimmy is irritated about them saying that she had an affair with him while him and Kiowa were together. But I mean, is that still the rumor? I mean, is still people still talking about that out there in them Love and Marriage Huntsville social media streets? Like, is Kimmy still getting pinned to the cross for that? Because, I mean, you guys will have to let me know. I mean, it didn't seem like it. I thought that maybe Kimmy had moved past it, but maybe she hasn't. I mean, we gonna see next episode that they gonna be talking about it again. So, I mean, maybe not. But to me, when I look, I don't think that's what Kimmy is worrying about any longer. Okay. At the same time, Kiowa is out with Monster, and she's just talking to him, and she's asking him, you know, like, what would help the situation. He's not really sure. She says, would I need to be around more? And he said, yeah, that would actually be good. And she said, how much more? And he said, as much as you can. Okay. And I felt kind of, you know, that pulled at the old mommy heartstrings, because, you know, no mommy wants their child to need them, and then they can't be there, you know. So, like, I felt bad because I was like, I know Kyle probably has there's always a little pull of guilt, like, you know, I don't want my kid to feel like I abandoned them and all this. So she must not live in Alabama, because she could be closer, I guess. So I guess they're gonna have to try to figure that out. But this whole thing with Maurice is just, you know, like Kimmy was saying, there are things that you teach a child. You can't just assume that a child, just the perfect example, back when Joe was, did I tell you guys the story already? I may have. If I have, just act like you ain't heard it. You gonna hear it again. But when Joe was in his first year of college, he was, you know, he had his car, and him and his friends had went to the movies, and it was like 2:00 in the morning, and they had a flat tire. And Joe didn't know how to change a flat tire. So Joe called us, 2:00 in the morning. Okay. He calls his dad to tell him about this flat tire, and Mr. was fucking pissed and went off on him like, how you don't know how to change no tire? You all can't figure out and something you calling and all. And Joe was so upset about that. Okay. And, you know, he had told me at the time, and, you know, he was just like, Dad is all fussing at me about not knowing how to change a tire, but, you know, ain't nobody showed me how to change a tire. And that's what I told Mr. I was like, Mister, the boy don't just automatically know how to change a tire. If you've never changed a tire, then how is he supposed to know how to change a tire? I mean, you've never changed a tire with him. How is he supposed to know? You know, Mrs. whole thing is, I just knew when I was younger, but back when we was younger, like, I know how to change a tire because I always saw my dad doing it. You know, my dad back in the day was doing every fucking thing. So I saw my dad do everything. Okay. My dad worked on cars. My dad worked, you know, he poured concrete. He put the addition on the back of our house. I saw my dad do everything. So I felt like there were certain things that I could do because I saw my dad doing it. Right. But now today, we don't work on fucking cars, honey. We take the car to the damn car dealership and they work on it. You know, so Mister, we ain't changed NAM tire before this situation happened. You know, so I was just like, Joe don't know how to change a tire because he ain't never seen you do it. How you fussing at him, you know? And just recently, we went out, just actually on Mother's Day, I think we were talking about it, and Joe was like, Dad, you was just yelling at me, and you know, we was laughing about it then, but it was a big deal back then, because Joe was just like, he's mad at me, because I don't know how to fucking change the tire, you know? And Miss was like, hey, none of them knew how to change no tires, with 4 boys in the car, da, 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 da. And I was just like, that shit just don't come out the blue. They have to be taught, okay? So that was like a perfect situation, and it reminded me what Maurice was saying about it reminded me of the same situation with Mr. and Joe. And now Mr. understood what we were saying, but at the time he just couldn't get it. I was just like, quit fussing at him about that. My boy is out there 2:00 in the morning, you up here yelling at him on the phone. And either tell him how to do it, or tell them to call AAA or something. Okay? So yeah, anyway, that was that. It was actually a pretty good episode. I enjoyed this episode. What y'all thought? I'm off here going to do Detroit, child. It's a busy day. I got a book club meeting later on today, too. All right, you guys. So anyway, make sure that you thumbs up this video, comment, subscribe to the channel. If you haven't already, I am Roxanne. The channel is It's Rocks. Everything else I do will be in the bottom. Bye. All right. So I hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day, and I plan on doing the same. Till next time, rock stars. Bye.